service calls is that area that we have known for a long time. We were leaving a lot on the table. And some of it was because some of our team was really eager and willing to do them, but just didn't have as big a clientele, didn't have as big a customer base. So you were sometimes more limited to what you got at shows or things like that. Some of us have a really giant, robust customer base, but we're so busy with being in the office or doing events or being on bases or working with realtors or whatever else, that we just didn't always prioritize the time to be in the field and do service calls. And you know, whether this is legit or whether these are just the stories we're telling ourselves, at the end of the day, I just feel like there was never as much like inertia. There was not as much momentum on service calls as there should have been. So I feel like that is an area that we have never fully adopted best practices. Like we have individual people that'll go out there for a period of time and kill the game. But as far as like doing it consistently, turning on when they need to, and creating a great week out of those resources that you get, however you got them, whether it's show leads, it's your own customers, it's a pink sheet, whatever you got them, being confident in your skills and raising your abilities to the level where you can jump right into that and know you can immediately enact some positive results. You know, that's what we've gotten a chance to see Matt do firsthand. Everyone that's worked in the booth with Matt and spent time with him knows that he's an energy guy. He has a focus. He has a love of the business and a love of other people. But for me, just on the sidelines, watching the stats, watching the numbers, and watching the habits, it has been damn impressive to see. So to get a chance to share, you know, some of the things that he has done that have led to such a high level of success with service calls, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Matt Foss.
So cool. All right, guys. Well, I'm excited to follow up a talk that was very revolutionary for my business. But that was pretty awesome, good stuff. But no, I am excited to be talking to you guys about service calls today because it's always been a crucial part of my business, and I think it's just the way I've been trained. It's like, hey, if you don't have a show, you know, go out and generate CPO somehow. Make sure you're staying consistent with your service call results because it adds up. You know, I look at some of my biggest weeks that I've had over the past years, and they've always been, you know, I start off a week pretty strong with a few service calls, and then I go into a kick-ass show and I end up doing like 10 grand or 15 grand or whatever it might be. So to really get next level results, it takes layering these into your business. The reason why I'm really excited to talk to you guys about them, though, is I've had some pretty good results on them recently. I came out here with no leads, really nothing to work off of when it comes to service calls. So I just grabbed a bunch of pink sheets, started calling those, and I did 12 of them and sold 10 grand. And I was like, all right. And what was kind of cool was there were a couple things because those were some of the better averages that I've had in a while. And I just realized a couple of things that I've been doing to kind of tweak things. So just to give you guys a couple of tips, I want to talk a little bit about the mindset shift that I've had, and also some of the mindset keys that I've continued to, you know, adapt with. And then also some of the slight changes that I've made to my service call recently that I think have had a big impact on my results. And then the last thing that I want to kind of go over is my structure on service calls, because I think that's one of the biggest things. Because we all know how to, my concept is we all know how to sell Cutco, right? A lot of us have our flatware approach, cookware approach, et cetera, et cetera. But the structure of things is usually what makes the biggest difference, I think, on service calls. But just to give a couple of tips on like mindset, one thing that I was always taught was to ask yourself, you know, hey, what are you thinking before you're going into a service call? Like, what are you consistently telling yourself? You know, I would hear from Jason Jeffrey that he liked to kind of step into like another kind of person. Like he would just tell himself like, you know, Jeremy Reisig or Curtis Jakes or any of these people that he really looks up to and are creating crazy results. And he would try to identify himself with that before he goes into a service call. So I'll do that sometimes. But I think one of the biggest things for me is just going in and having 100% service mindset. So I'm like, my question to myself is, okay, as soon as I walk in this door, how can I serve my customer on the absolute highest level, right? Has been really big because my whole concept is I want to provide such amazing service and such amazing value to that customer that they like, it doesn't make sense for them not to buy it. Like they're just so excited to be around me, and the fact that I have products that are new for them that they get excited about, like they're not even going to think twice because I've done such a good job with them, right? So And I never really prejudge when I go into an appointment either. What's really interesting is a lot of you probably think like with the pink sheets I did, a lot of them are in Highland Park, and I did a lot of appointments in Highland Park. But get this, some of my smaller orders were actually in Highland Park, and I had my two biggest orders. One was like kind of out in like South Dallas, and then the other one was out in like Mesquite. And the one I did Mesquite, man, this lady's house was a train wreck. And I was like, oh geez, this is a little crazy, but I'm like, I'm not going to prejudge. And there's just a Mexican lady, lived by herself, lived with her mother and her daughter, but single. And she ended up getting, upgrade, and her upgrade was taken as it was like, 1,500 CPO or something, like 2K line one, I don't know. But the reason why that was able to happen for me is because I didn't go in there and prejudge. I was like, I'm just going to serve this customer on the highest level. So that's a really big thing. One of the things that I've started doing recently is going in and having a big focus on connection. How can I connect with this person right off the bat? And one thing I learned from a couple mentors of mine is how can you match and mirror them immediately as you walk in the door? Because the first impression you make on somebody, regardless of what your thoughts are on first impressions, the first impression you make on somebody is going to make a big difference on how the service call goes and your relationship going forward. So as I said, and then I just want to have such a good connection with them that they can't help but to want to buy more. I mean, I'm sure you guys have been in some position before where somebody starts selling something. Like, have you ever bought something just to help somebody out before? Like, if a friend starts like selling some product or something like that, and you're just like, they're cool. Or the big thing that kind of jumped into my head was certain things like I wouldn't be in the market for if I'm like really good friends with somebody who's selling that or that's their business. All of a sudden I start considering it, right? So the better connection you can build with somebody, the more open they're going to be to that. So the thing is, I just have that confidence going into service calls that when I go in there, I know that I know exactly what I'm doing. I know I'm having such a good connection with them. And at the end of the day, it's going to be all up to the people that I see. So confidence is an absolute has been a game changer for me, because it's not like I wonder if I'm doing this correctly or I wonder if I'm doing that correctly. I just go in like I'm going to light it up. How much CPO I generate on this appointment is completely up to the customer, right? So having that kind of confidence in your service call. Another thing is mindset wise has been getting people's attention immediately. I want and that's why I set it up over the phone. So it's very important for me to set it up over the phone. It's like, hey, we're going to sit down. We're going to go over like what your knives are used for. You're going to be taking a look at some newer products, like that kind of thing. And I have an approach for that if you want it. But I just want their attention immediately. And I'll go over a way in which I've been trying to getting their attention immediately as soon as I go in. But that's going to be the most important thing to me is how can I develop connection right away, get their attention, get them sitting down with me, and have them like invested in this appointment, right? But one of my big mantras that I've had that I use going into my shows and my appointments has been basically like I'll tell myself I have the energy, mindset, and communication skills necessary to generate as much CPO as possible today and serve my clients on the highest level. I have the energy, mindset, and communication skills necessary to generate as much CPO as possible and serve my clients on the highest level. And I'll tell myself that.
One more time, slower.
So I have the energy, mindset, and communication skills necessary to generate as much CPO as possible and serve my clients on the highest level. Tell yourself that for every appointment, for every shift. If you're a Tony Robbins person, you should probably like do some, movement to go with it, action and emotion. So that's been a big thing for me. Now, just to talk about mindset shift when closing. One thing that it was good. I heard this from Foss when he was talking at the booth about like not really giving a crap, essentially. And I think a big thing is taking a lot of pressure off of yourself. When I'm closing, what's going through my head is it's like it doesn't matter to me what you choose to do with this deal I showed you, but you would be absolutely crazy to pass it up. Like that's just how I think about it. Like it doesn't matter to me what you want to do, but you would be crazy to pass this up. And just having that confidence, it shows in your tonality, your voice inflections, everything you're doing when you're closing. And then you can pull out your contests and your goals if you have to, for people who need to be tied into. And that's another thing is I ran into a few people who, you know, were like, oh, I bought this homemaker just to help my friend out, or help my nephew out, or whatever it might be, right? And I'm constantly thinking, I'm like, how can I, everything that I'm saying and everything that I'm doing, how can I bring it back to their first experience of buying that bigger set, right? So for me, it's like, for the people that are like, oh, I use like half the knives, but I bought it to help them out. It's like with those people, I'm making sure that I'm really tying them into me, because the first time they bought Cutco, they bought it to help somebody else. So the second time they buy Cutco, they're more likely to buy it to help you out, right? So same type of thing. Maybe they didn't buy it to help them out. It was more of a, if it was a referral or something like that, they're like, yeah, we needed knives. Like, we cook every day. It's like, I want to bring it back to that rather than focusing on my goals and stuff as much. So it just kind of depends on the customer. And another thing that I've started doing, a big mindset shift here, was staying open, is showing people everything when they're open-minded. So a lot of the times I used to just kind of like, people wouldn't give me a response when I brought up like cookware, flatware, and I would just kind of poo-poo it. But I mean, there'll be certain people that will like shut it down immediately and whatever, you can move on with those people. But if they don't really give you a response, they're like, oh, that's cool. Like, make sure you're showing it anyways. You know, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So, and the big thing is how can I get people open-minded as quickly as possible? And I talked about this on a call last night with Jason. And the big thing is a lot of people, they go in to a service call, and it's like they're trying to, you know, throw all this stuff at them, when I'm just trying to get them open-minded to a couple things and kind of gradually increase that process. Like, I get them open-minded to a couple of knives, and all of a sudden they're open-minded to an upgrade. And all of a sudden they're open-minded to flatware, and then you kind of build up towards that kitchen concept. So that's been a big game changer for me. But some of the changes I've made recently, and I went field training with Curtis, which was really big, and he taught me some Jedi mind tricks. One of the things that I learned was, when you're writing down deals for people, write an N for the normal price, write a C for Cutco's price, and write a Y for your price. The reason why you do that is when you're passing notes, when you used to pass notes in class, do you want to go with me, no or yes? You just do N or Y, right? So Y secretly like signifies yes. So it's a little Jedi mind trick you can use. But the other thing is, make sure you're selling the crap out of the first two things that you show them. And I actually had a talk to Roger, but Roger actually told me this, I want to say maybe like 6 months ago or something like that, but I've really started to see the benefits of it. And the big reason why you want to get people like either writing down the first two things you show them, or you know, sold the first two things you show them, is because that just opens the floodgates for whatever else you want to sell them. Because they automatically went from like, you know, I probably wouldn't use anything, to like, okay, maybe I would use those. Then they'll go, okay, maybe I would use an upgrade. Maybe I would use this. You know, so on my service calls, the first two things I show them, I make sure that they're writing that down. The biggest shift that I've made, I'd say, would be showing an ultimate upgrade first on my service calls, because I'll go through and I'll cover my structure for it in a second. But after I go through everything with them and I start showing new products, it's just a segue, and I'm just suggesting products. And I feel like what happens a lot of the time is we go in and we throw out this huge Cutco kitchen idea, which we should be talking about Cutco kitchens on all our service calls. But a lot of the times, most customers are in the mentality, whether it's a booth or at the service call, that they're like, if I got anything, I'd probably get a few pieces, right? So you need to connect with that right off the bat and show them just a couple of pieces that they would absolutely love, and then you kind of build it up from there. So I've been showing the ultimate upgrade first, because that's the thing that's most popular with customers. And a lot of the time I can sell them on an ultimate upgrade right off the bat. And then when I start talking about the kitchen, they're more open-minded to it, because the kitchen consists of packages. And if they're already like, well, I'm already considering one package, which would be the upgrade, they're thinking, you know, what else can we look at, right? So that was a big thing, is showing an ultimate upgrade first on my appointments. And then the other thing here is, how can you make your transitions conversational rather than like telling them what you're doing? One thing that was big for me is when I was closing, like I used to be like, take their sheet and be like, hey, so just so you know, usually what I do is I show my customers what their wish list looks like, just as a courtesy, so you can kind of take a look at pricing. And then I'll build rapport and like write things down, right? Now I don't really tell them what I'm doing. I just grab the piece of paper, I start writing down their whole wish list, I'm building rapport with them. And then it's just a smoother transition because I'm like, oh, here you go, here's your wish list, by the way, right? And you'd be amazed what having smoother transitions does for you. So instead of being like, oh, let me show you our kitchen, it's just like, try and have your transitions be more conversational rather than salesy. And then also talking about how everything comes in basic, family, and complete set. So flatware, cookware, knives, everything pretty much, right? Especially flatware. I don't know why I wasn't doing this before, but 12 place settings is just a basic set, guys. And then 16 place settings is your family set, and then 24 place settings is your complete set. Same thing with the, legacy cookware set, the accomplished chef, and the whatever the heck it's called. I call it basic, complete, basic, family, and complete. But you need to use that concept with pretty much all the packages there. So that's been a big thing. And I've actually sold a lot of like 16 place settings where I would have only sold, 12 place settings with flatware, right? So the big thing that I think I've changed though has been like, and as I mentioned this concept earlier, like we all know how to sell Cutco. A lot of us have an awesome approach for each thing. And if you don't have an awesome approach for each thing, that's the first thing you should work on. But the big thing that I've started doing is working on my intro, my goals, my transitions, and my closing, and just making it a smooth, casual selling process has done wonders. It just makes it twice as easy to close. So also, one thing I started doing was leveraging the crap out of things that they signify they need. So somebody be like, oh, I tried this cheese knife out. I absolutely need that one, right? Whenever you're talking about an ultimate upgrade, be like, yeah, this package is coming with your blank in it, right? Same exact thing. If they need a certain cookware pan, relate that cookware set back to it. Oh, this has the pan that you need in there, right? And if they need it, and you set it up that it only comes in that package, guess what they're buying? That package. So, and then another thing here, just quickly, is if you feel like you're losing people, which a lot of times when you go into a service call and you're talking about something and you feel like they're just not with you and they're just not kind of like in the zone with you, you need to make sure you're breaking their pattern in some way, shape, or form. This is a big thing Tony Robbins talks about is, breaking people's pattern and then just kind of readjusting, right? Reframing. So for me, I just build rapport or build value somehow. A lot of like random little things. Like I'll be talking about something and I can tell that they're like not like super into it, or they kind of feel like a little bit of pressure or something like that. And I'll just break it and I'll just be like, oh, by the way, these table knives in your block, like I forgot to tell you this is really cool, but you actually want to put those in upside down so you don't dull your block, or you don't dull your knives, you don't scratch your block. Like, oh, that's really cool. And then I'll just build some like random value for them, or I'll just start talking about something random, kind of break their pattern. And be like, oh, we could probably talk about this all day. But let me just show you this really quick, right? And then you go right back into it and their mindset's switched a little bit. So I think one thing that might be beneficial is just to kind of explain the structure of my service call, how it works. So we have what I have is an inventory sheet that I got from Curtis a while ago, and I've changed it a pretty good amount to be more package focused because like it didn't really have like the 3 different flatware packages. It didn't have like the complete hunting accessory package on there, so I changed it up a little bit. But that's what my whole service call is based around. So essentially, walk in the door, I connect with them immediately, and I get right to work. And now if there's somebody that is like, oh, glad you could swing by, like I'll be in my office working while you're sharpening knives, like I don't let that happen. How I do it is I take out that sheet immediately and I'll be like, hey, just while I inspect your knives here, I'm just gonna have you fill out the top part of your inventory sheet. I'll help you with that in a second, okay? And then I'll just keep building rapport with them, talking about their knives, So inspect the knives. And then the other thing is after that, I'll kind of go into just kind of marking things down on the inventory sheet. So I'll ask them, I got this from Josh, is asking, hey, what do you use this knife for, right? And you don't want to make it like a quiz. And this was one of the biggest mistakes I made back in the day was like, can't be like, they tell you what you use it for and then you immediately correct them. You just be like, yeah, it's cool. You're like, oh, you use it for this? Cool. This one, what do you use this one for? Cool, right? And you just have them mark all these things down in their inventory sheet. And then after that, you ask them, hey, I have some suggestions on what to use your knives for if you're open to hearing about that, right? And immediately they're like, yeah, sure. So this is where you just transition to building a ton of value for them, and you let them know, like, hey, I'm here to help educate you. You know, one of the main parts of the service call, Mrs. Jones, I'm just here to help educate you. So anyways, I'll cover what their knives are used for. And one thing that's really important is make sure you're creating gaps in their mind. You know, oh, you want to use this for this, but you don't want to use it for this. And they're going to be like, oh, well, what do you use it for? We use on acorn butternut spaghetti squash. Yeah, we actually make a knife for that. It's one of my favorites. I'll show it to you once we get to the catalog. And I'll do that with like 2 or 3 times. Yeah, we actually make a paring knife you use on the cutting board now. It's pretty crazy. I'll show it to you once we get to the catalog, and I'll just show them something else, right? And I'm just constantly building excitement for them to get to the catalog, right? So making sure they put X's on the lines next to everything that they have, right? And I tell them, so I get this inventory sheet from you, so that way we can kind of keep track of what you have. Now, at some point in the approach, this has been a huge thing for me, is you need to have a power intro to not only set the service call up, but also build your brand for them. So a lot of times I'll be building rapport, just shooting the shit with them, and then all of a sudden I'll just be like, hey, by the way, Mrs. Jones, like, just so you know who I am, I'm not like a random knife sharpening guy. I've actually been showing sharpening Cutco for over 6 years now. And a lot of what I do is I work with a lot of customers like yourself who have Cutco, but don't have a Cutco representative yet. And by the way, I'd love the opportunity to be your Cutco guy and work with you for years to come. And how that works, Mrs. Jones, is once you place an order with me, you go into my system. And what's great about my system is I keep you posted on what's new from Cutco, anything new you should know about when we're in the area for events, cool stuff like that. Not spamming you, I'm not showing up unannounced or anything like that. I'm just kind of giving you my information a few times throughout the year. That way, if you do need anything, you can reach out. So what I just did by that was I told them that once they place an order with me is when they go into my system. I'm building value in the programs or the systems that I have set up for them, and I'm having them want me. I'm having them like want to have me as their Cutco guy. And a lot of times I will close purely because they're like, I want you as my Cutco guy. People who weren't going to buy anything would get like a buy 2 get 1 or 5-piece special. They're like, does this mean we get to work with you from now on? I'm like, yep, pretty much, right? Now, so that's, make sure you have a power intro down to kind of build value in yourself. Now my segue kind of into the blue book is I tell them, hey, I'm super boring to watch sharpen knives. I have the catalog with me so that we can take a look through this together. Now, as you look through the catalog, you're probably going to see a bunch of stuff that you like. Most people do because it's Cutco. It's awesome. Now, Mrs. Jones, whether you want to add anything today is completely up to you, of course. I'm not like a high pressure guy, but I just want to let you know that when I come to the house to do sharpening is when I'm allowed to do some of the lowest pricing on the products all year. So it's always good to just keep an open mind. And that just makes it super low key, super no pressure, and they're already excited to see new stuff. It's almost kind of like a push away close. It's like, hey, you don't have to get anything today, but they're already thinking about getting stuff because I've showed them so many gaps in what they're missing. So that's really important. And then I go, and most people will expect you to go right into the catalog, and I throw them for a curveball and I go, before I even show you any of the new stuff, still like pushing it away, I'm like, the most important thing I need to show you is your guarantee. And this is where I just build a ton of value in the guarantee. I cover the forever performance. Tell stories is a big thing. So I tell a ton of stories with forever guarantee. I always tell a story about my customer in Scottsdale who used the knife to cut tree branches in her backyard. And I told her, hey, no promises on anything. Send it back to Cutco. Don't tell them what you did and just see what happens. And she got a new knife in like a week or two. And people are like, wow, really? That's crazy. I'll tell a story of a lady I ran into at the booth that had her Cutco for 63 years. And the set was just destroyed. She sent it back. And they're like, we can't do anything for this. So they just sent her a whole brand new set in the mail for free. And how I'll frame that with people too is when I tell that story, I go, by the way, do you remember how much you paid for your Cutco? They're like, no. They're like, oh, your set retails for around like $1,200. So she had her basic set, which retails for about $1,200. She sent it back. It was too old. They couldn't do anything. They just sent her a brand new $1,200 set in the mail for free. Power pause. They're like, wow. Right? So make sure you're telling stories because facts tell and stories sell. So especially during the guarantee because that's what, sells Cutco. The other thing here, make sure you cover the forever sharpness. You can come by to sharpen them up for them. Also, you can send them out to the factory. One thing I've started changing is when I cover the trial, I tell them, hey, coolest thing a lot of people don't know about is a 15-day money-back guarantee. And what's great about that is we allow you to try out anything that you decide to add for your kitchen, not your set, for your kitchen. Anything you add to your kitchen today for 15 days. And now, if there's something you don't like, you don't use, you can send it back for refund or swap it for something different. Mrs. Jones, I'm never going to try to sell you anything you're not going to use because I don't want you to have to worry about returning stuff. But I do get questions on gifts a lot. A lot of people want to know, if they get a gift for somebody, what kind of process is if they want to get it switched out. And you basically tell them that they have 15 days to send the knives back from the time they open them or somebody opens the gifts. So you tell them it makes it risk-free for you and it makes it risk-free for gifts. And that's just, I use that as just planting seeds for gifts, essentially. Another thing just on planting seeds, make sure you're asking the question as soon as they bring out everything. You need to be like, by the way, are there any kitchen gadgets, cookware, flatware, hunting stuff that you guys have lying around? Always ask them that. Because a lot of times they're going to be like, no, but then they're going to be like, what? Like, y'all make that stuff? So again, just subtly planting seeds for them later. So anyways, after the guarantee, I just transitioned into making suggestions is a big thing. It's not like, hey, let me show you where to upgrade. Hey, let me show you some new stuff now. It's like, by the way, based on what you guys told me earlier and based on, what you're using your knives for, I just have a couple of suggestions on a few things that Cutco makes if you're open to hearing about them. And they're like, yeah, give me some of your suggestions. And I sell the crap out of the first two things, cover an ultimate upgrade, explain the concept of the ultimate upgrade after, because what happens is they have a bunch of stuff written down and they're like, what do I do with all these pieces is what they're asking themselves, right? Because they got like 7, 9, 11 pieces written down and they're just like, well, like, what, do I just get all these individually? And then when I explain the block, the upgrade program, they're like, oh, that makes sense, right? It kind of fills in a gap there that a lot of people were wondering about. The biggest thing after you show them the first thing you sell the crap out of, you need to explain the wish list properly. And the way I always explain it is like, oh, by the way, totally forgot to explain this for you. So this is your inventory list so I can keep track of what you have, right? Because I'm here for the long run. I'm here to help you out. This also pairs as your Cutco wish list though. Now your wish list is designed so that you can write down anything you see that you like, anything that you want, or anything you would want to give as a gift from Cutco. Like, want, or want to give as a gift from Cutco. Now keep in mind, Mrs. Jones, this is not necessarily everything you're getting today. It's more of a list of things that you like. That way I can keep track of it for you. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, that makes sense. Makes it super non-committal. You have to make the wish list super, super, super non-committal. And then as soon as I get the first couple things written down, floodgates open. So I do X's and O's. I tell everybody we do X's and O's because everybody loves Cutco. X's on the lines of things you have, O's on the lines of things that you would want, right? And you just have them go through and fill that out. Now, if somebody's being stubborn, by the way, and they're like not writing down something, they're like, oh, that's really cool, I would use that. You need to tell them to write stuff down. Like, oh, go ahead and put that on your wish list. That's gonna be your 4-inch bearing. Like, I make sure people are writing things down. At the end of the service call, sometimes we'll even take the sheet back from them, and I'll go back if there's a couple of things that I know they didn't write down. I'll be like, by the way, I do 1s and 2s on this sheet just so I can keep track of things. 1 would be something you would probably want at some point from Cutco. 2 would be something that you would not want from Cutco. So a lot of times I'm really good at getting people to be writing things down and very confident on that. But sometimes you need to take back control, and that's your opportunity to do that. It's marked as 1s or 2s, and guess what you do? You put those 1s on the wish list, right? Anyways, then I segue into a kitchen, explain the kitchen concept, right? And then and a lot of the time, I'll just kind of gauge their reaction on cookware and flatware. If they, they're like super excited about the flatware right away, I'll just go into the flatware right away. If they're like, man, about the flatware, and I explain the cookware, I'll go, and they're like, oh, well, like, that's pretty interesting. I'll just go right into that. So I kind of feed off the customer based on their interest level on what to show them, but I'm making sure I'm showing them cookware, flatware packages, making sure I'm asking them, do you guys hunt or fish or have anybody that hunts or fishes in the family? Go over the accessories, gadgets, all that stuff. Like, I cover the whole wish list, or pretty much all the products that we make in an efficient way where it doesn't overwhelm them, but at the same time, gets them to write things down on the wish list. And then from there, as I said, like once I'm done showing products, I don't tell them, oh, I'm going to show you your wish list now. It's like, it's more like I'm just going to grab this from you here, and I'll just start building rapport, right? And I'll just like shoot the shit with them for a little bit. And then I'll just be writing down all the stuff. And all of a sudden it's like, by the way, I just showed you this just for grins so you can take a look. What I do as a courtesy for all my customers is I show them what their wish list looks like. That way you can get an idea for pricing. And then I'll just position it to be such a crazy deal where they're like, wow, that's nuts. And then you just drop down from there. And a lot of the times, you know, the bigger packages that I've closed, there's cookware, flatware, and an upgrade on the wish list, right? And you just say, you know, the drop down process is pretty simple. It's just like, hey, by the way, this is your whole wish list. This isn't everything you need to get today. I just wanted to show it to you so you can see how much of a good deal you get, right? Super non-salesy, super like, hey, I'm just showing you as a courtesy, right? And then it's like most people, when I come over, will do one or two parts of the upgrade first. We had to drop the cookware, the flatware, which one of those would it be? Drop down, and then a lot of the times you get to a point where you're just like, by the way, I mean, we can always put that stuff on the back burner. Sounds like the real thing you guys wanted was that upgrade. But I'm gonna just show you what that is, right? And you just show them an upgrade, and it's a lot of times it's closing questions like, so you just want to do the knives today? Start off with those, and then we can work on the other stuff later. And people are like, yeah, knives, let's just do the knives. Boom, $1,200 order, right? So it's really that simple. Then if you have to drop down to a builder upgrade, that's a big thing that it skyrocketed my average order was selling builder upgrades. Always put a block on people's order, or whatever you show them, always have a block on. So builder upgrade, then to 5-piece, and then, you know, a couple pieces from there. But usually it's set up so you're selling a lot of ultimate upgrades, a lot of builder upgrades.
Can I ask, I think the context sort of informs, but will you just explain what a builder upgrade is?
Oh, sorry. So builder upgrade is ultimate block, 2 table knives, and then the 5 pieces that they want the most. 850 package. Yeah, I've heard it called that too. But the big thing with that is framing is like, hey, I just want to show you something that I've started doing for my customers recently that I've gotten a really good response on. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, what's that, right? Because it's like, you know, social proof. And I just show them an 850 package, and it's easy. So a lot of my bigger orders were, you know, an ultimate block with, you know, 5 or 6 pieces in them, plus, you know, 3 pieces of cookware and some other stuff, whatever it might be, right? So you want to make sure you tailor it to them, but at the same time have a direction and be able to navigate it properly when closing. That's pretty much it. So if you guys have any questions for me, love to answer them. So.
Yeah, so when you have like their personal wish list put together, say you show them the whole package and the deal they can get on it, when you're dropping down, like, what's your approach to that? Is it just take 2 items off depending on the size of the order, or how do you go about a drop down from the wish list?
The drop down process usually goes, because as I said, there's cookware, flatware, and upgrade on it a lot of the times, because of how I set it up. And I'll tell them, like, usually on the first thing that I show them, it's like, you know, $5 grand plus worth of stuff. And they're like, no way. And I'm just like, yeah, no big deal. That's just your wish list, right? And then I'll take one of the things off, either the cookware or the flatware usually. Now, sometimes you'll run into people that are like, I don't want more knives. Like, I want cookware and flatware. And I've sold, you know, a full set of cookware, full set of flatware to someone who got a homemaker. But you just kind of need to gauge what would be the one thing that you would take off, right? And then from there, you know, drop down to, you know, if that's like usually a $2,000 to $4,000 package, then you drop down to just an upgrade or just a set of flatware. I've done a lot of those where people are like, I really love that flatware. And I'll just be like, cool, we'll keep the knives on the back burner, right? But then you drop down to one of them, so $1,000 package. Then you drop down to usually like a builder upgrade. And the builder upgrade in my mind for flatware would be like, you know, 6 place settings, 8 place settings. For cookware, it's like a 3-piece set. I've been selling a ton of 3-piece sets of cookware. Like for people who are like, you can tell they're totally getting an upgrade and you show them cookware with it, and you drop down to, you know, the basic set and they're still like, nah, it's just not in the budget. It's like, show them a 3-piece set, and usually 3 pieces of cookware, especially like if you recommend like a skillet, Dutch oven, and like a fry pan or a saucepan, it usually comes out to around $1,000. So just price position at $995, and dude, you will sell those like candy. So it's pretty awesome. So that's the drop down process there, but builder upgrade from the knives, and then 5-piece special. And then you just kind of go pieces from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sweet. Any other questions I can answer for you guys?
Can you throw your inventory list, the revamped inventory list in like the group me or something?
Yeah, for sure. I can send you guys the inventory list. I also have my wish list verbiage scripted out because I thought that was one of the most important things. So I can send you guys that.
Because I know that you're new to the area, and I know that it's something that you forgot to do on our appointment. Or the recommendations.
Recos. Yes, that's something that you want to ask me about what my big thing is on my, for my
I was going to
business.
ask what's your one thing.
Yeah, no, for recommendations, one of the big things that I've learned or I heard from you were telling me the other day, and I've known to do this, is just ask people, who else in the family owns Cutco. That's usually pretty easy for referrals. But the way I when I used to ask for a lot of referrals, which I'm going to start doing again, I used to position it as like, it's so crazy that a lot of people don't even know about this service. Like it's really sad. People have Cutco and they don't even know that they can get sharpened in home for free or have this amazing service. And people are like, yeah, that is pretty sad. It's like, cool. So I'm just going to need you to write down everybody that owns Cutco. That way I can at least give them a quick courtesy call, to see if they need sharpening or not. I like to service as many people as I can.
Money.
So that's going to be big, but I just frame it as like, I'm like I think I'm doing people a disservice by not sharpening their knives and doing a service call for them. My customer needs to be thinking that they're doing a disservice by not giving me the people that they know that own stuff. So
can I ask on the front end, like, what is your, a lot, I think a lot of the reason many of us haven't done a lot of service calls is we just haven't done a lot of legitimate phone time. So what is your process for either organizing your leads or contacts? What are your habits and rituals when it comes to doing phone time? Just anything you can talk about on the front side of actually booking them up, I'd be interested to do.
That's a good question because I used to have a phoning assistant in Arizona who would make all my calls for me. Now, back when I was making a lot of my own calls, I'm just like, dude, how can I make this as easy as possible for myself? So I just have a Google sheet that has all of my booth leads, and separated by city and separated by area, and also my past customers in there as well. And I just added a follow-up list tab to it too, so that way when I'm phoning, I can like remember, oh, I got a follow-up list, and I'll always check that. And like my first call before I start actually booking appointments would be like to a person that I was supposed to follow up with on something, right? But I have them organized in a Google spreadsheet. I send them on over to my admin assistant, and she enters them in there for me. And then for pink sheets, pink sheets is a process for qualifying them, but it's so freaking worth it. I'm telling you. Like I would just sit down. Brian gave me a massive stack of pink sheets the other day, and I just sat down for an hour or two, and I just sorted out all the ones that were 300 line 1 or higher, in a nice area, paid in full. And those are the main things. And then sets, focus on people who have like homemakers, especially homemakers paid in full. Like those are just ridiculous, man. Those have been all like my kitchen upgrades for the most part, or my $2,000-$3,000 orders. So look for those things. But I usually do 300 plus CPO or 300 plus line 1. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sort it by area, sort it by how much they bought, sort it by sets. That kind of thing. And if there's a representative that, is like from a super money area or whatever, you can, like an old representative, obviously don't see any current representatives, but it's just like an old representative that was super money, like go see all their clients. So that's how I sort that. And phone time. As far as phone time goes, again, I used to not do it. Now I do. And it's really not that bad, man. I just I put it in my schedule. And if it's in my schedule, like I'm going to make it happen. And I realize, I book 1 to 2 appointments per hour, sometimes more. And I look at my schedule. I'm like, okay, I got to do 10 appointments this week. I need at least, 8-10 hours of phone time or so. And I'll just sit down and crank it out. So
simple.
It's called don't be a wuss.
Yeah, don't make your calls.
Do it.
Exactly.
Damn. What do you guys think? Anyone else have any kind of specific questions? How solid do you feel like you are on, and I say this almost jokingly because you kicked off literally 4 months. I think I told you this, but last year we spent 4 months on cookware, and it was all because your cookware talk was so good that we're like, damn, we can't let like that lightning that just struck pass by. And we kept having different speakers. We did literally over an hour of just cookware role playing, and we sold a ton more during the fairs. But like, when do you feel you made a switch on cookware? I feel like cookware is a lot of our Achilles heel, where it's kind of like, we know what to do, we've sold some, but we're just not as confident. Like, what was your coming around point on that?
You know, my coming around point on it was honestly just watching Jason sell a ton of it. Jason reached out to me and he was like, dude, you know, you're one of like the top cookware salespeople in the company right now. I'm like, I didn't even know that. I just see you sell it a lot, so obviously it should be sold. So for me, it was just a mindset shift is all it was. It's just like, it's one of those things, like, this is something that's changing your food, and this is something that can offer, you know, sometimes twice as much value as the knives to people. And as soon as I had that mindset shift, and I realized how important it was to people, I just started showing it to everybody. So that was a big thing too, is making sure every customer at least knows about it. So.
Nice. Well, guys, any last questions? Okay, if not, all right.
Cool.
Wait, is that his big focus for the year? Was recommendations or just
Okay, my real big focus for the year is definitely business gifts at the booth. I have sold one business gift, so I need to step my game up with
I
that.
just wanted to know. I know.
Kelly already gave me some tips the other day, but yeah, that's going to be a big focus of mine. On my talk with you guys, I was like, cookware can add 50K of CPO to your year. Business gifts is one of those. Is that for me? That's going to be an extra, 40, 50, 60 grand of CPO for me this year at the booth once I start, hammering my scripts down and stuff. So I'm excited about it.